Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Redbox Studio Facebook Live series. And we are back this week with episode number 26. And for this episode, there's been a lot of interest because a lot of people really want to learn about writing. So when we first put out the flyer on PTix as well as shared among friends, I think we saw a lot of people signing up and also clicking get reminder. So I hope today will be an interesting conversation because as I was chatting with Li Jin just now, she says 1 hour is very short for our conversation. I say yes, but we try to make it as fruitful, as productive for the both of us as it is for you who are watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments so that I can pull it up for Li Jin to answer. If you have something that you want to ask her face to face, and this I encourage you to do so because you can also join us on screen. So if you want to join us on screen, there's one criteria though, you have to turn on your video. In the past, I've encouraged people to join us on screen, but they were shy. So if you're shy, please put your comments, I'll put your questions in the comment section. But if you really want to see yourself on screen with us, I'll give you the link in a while, but you must turn on your video, okay? So that's the deal, right? So if you want to be with us on screen, please turn on your video. And so without much further ado, let me bring on Li Jin, and she's going to share with us a lot of interesting things today. Hi, Jin.
Hi. Thanks, Krista, for having me on Redbox Studio.
Thank you, Li Jin, for coming on and sharing the writers' tips and strategies and all this insider stuff that we need to get started. Both of us are writers, but I really like talking to other writers because I'm sure you also have your own secret sauce, right, so to speak.
Yes, secret sauce. I don't know about secret sauce, but come to think of it, you were my first boss, You're the first person I ever wrote for 20 years ago. Yes, I submitted to iasianwoman.com. That time you were the editor there, remember? Yeah, so you were actually my first boss.
Wow, okay. So let's not jump ahead and talk about that first. I want you to introduce the book that you have and the book that you really like.
Okay, actually, I like this part about you, putting in this book thing into your webinars. That makes it so much more fun. So this is the book that I want to share with everybody today. This is called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I'm sure most people have read it before. So people who like self-improvement and who believe in enhancing your work and who wants to improve in life, I definitely recommend this book because this book has changed my life. Of course, when I started writing, I had not read this book. I only read this book maybe about 10 years ago after I've been writing for 10 years already. But I remember telling myself, I wish I had found this book earlier, because it would have catapulted the way in which I work. It would have changed the way I did my work as well, But it did change the way I structured my life, and I changed the way I wrote as well, and I changed the platforms which I wrote for. So, The Secret actually talks about the law of attraction. A lot of people have heard about the law of attraction, but many people say that, oh yeah, it's just visualization, right? You just visualize that you manage to get whatever is it that you wish for. So this book actually debunks all these myths, and you find that, hey, actually, a law of attraction is not just like, just wishing and dreaming. There are certain tactics, there are certain techniques that you can use to make whatever that you want come true for you, you see. So I found this book to be particularly useful in that fact, right? It's got a lot of examples from very successful people, how they managed to change their lives, using the law of attraction, and what is the secret sauce, as they say, what's the secret recipe that makes it work or otherwise. So, yeah.
Okay. So I read that book and I really like that book also because I think it gives you a lot of hope, right? That there are things you can change in your life, but it has to start with you, right?
Correct. It has to start with you.
One of the things that I remember years and years ago, you told me this story and I really completely forgotten it. Remember that standing at the balcony and looking at the house? Okay, tell me that. Okay, before we get into other things, I want her to walk down memory lane with me for a bit because we've known each other for so long. But there was this particular thing that she told me, and I had completely forgotten about it. But you brought it up. I was thinking, wow, I didn't remember I said that, but okay, well.
Exactly, so that's the difference between the both of us, because I was struggling a lot in my life. Some people tend to do that a lot. I guess I was a bit of a late bloomer, and I was really struggling with a lot of things. Trying to find my footing, and at that point in time, I think I just started writing for IAW, as well as other places as well. And at that point, I remember I was feeling very trapped because I have a lot of very small children with me. My children were very small back then. It was about 20 years ago. So when you have small children, I know a lot of mothers feel the same way today. They say, I want to be able to change my life. I want to work. I have this education, but I can't because I have all these children. I don't have anybody to take care of my children, and I don't want anybody to take care of my children because I'm afraid something will happen to them. So there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs even today. See, it's not for me now, you see, but I remember, at that point in time, I think at that point I already had 3 children, and I had started writing just about 2 years, and my writing career was just about to begin. And you came over to KL, and then we met. Then I said, hey, come, let's go and look at this model house. And you say, okay, let's go and look. So we went to this beautiful semi-D, then we were standing at the balcony. So I told you, Krista, this is my dream one day to stand at the balcony and look down at my garden below. Wow, this would be my dream house. And you said, why not? And I said, no, I'm just a writer. How much do writers earn? For your articles, I just get paid 100 per article. Sampai bila lah I'll be able to buy my own house, isn't it? With this kind of amount. Then you say, no, this is what you think. If you feel that you can't, then you can't. But if you feel that you can, then you can. You see? So I'm like quite, struck by what you said. And I said, yeah, perhaps there is some truth in it. It's just how badly you want it. And that was when I started thinking to myself, okay, I have to start trying this thing that they call visualization. So I told myself, okay, I'm going to set targets. So this year I only write for one place, which is iasianwoman.com. And then later I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a target. Every year I'm going to write for one new publication. So I wrote other places. I remember that year I started writing for Malaysian Women's Weekly. So what happened was, I wrote into the Malaysian Women's Weekly magazine. In every magazine, there is something called a masthead. It's on the first page that says who the editors are, who are the contact numbers, etc. So I went to Malaysian Women's Weekly. Then I opened that page and said, okay, so this is the editor's address. So I wrote into the editor. Of course, didn't get any reply lah. Editors, they are so overwhelmed. They get thousands of letters, right? So, she didn't reply me. So I was like, oh dear, what should I do? Then I looked into the magazine and it said that they had that event. So I went to the event and I went and looked for the editor. I was so shaken, because I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. I don't know anybody. Just go. And then I looked for this editor. That time it was Tara Baker, a very tall Matsale lady. So I went up to her and said, hi Tara, I'm a writer. I would like to write for you. I've written so many times to your email, but you didn't reply. She said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's so rude of me. Never mind. Just write to me again. And this is the actual email address. Don't write to the general email. Just write to this email address, and then we'll get back to you. And that was how it all happened. So I started writing to her. I started spamming her, and I wrote to her, okay, there's this article, this title I want to write, this title I want to write, this title I want to write. And she was like, oh, no. So after a while, she was like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't like this. We don't want to run this because we had just run that story. Oh, this story is not relevant to our readers, And after about 3 or 4 emails, she said, hey, you have a lot of ideas, and I think your writing skills seems quite good. So, forget about this, but we do need writers for these topics. Would you like to write this for us? And I said, oh, of course, anything, So that was how it all started with Women's Weekly. So, basically, it's exactly what you had said to me. It is, if you believe, that you really want something and you work towards it, it will happen. So from that year on, of course, every year I started writing for more and more publications. So that year I was writing for Women's Weekly and iasianwoman.com. And then the next year, I remember it was more and more places. I've lost track. So after a while, it wasn't just one new publication a year. It was like maybe about 4 or 5 publications every year. I just keep on adding and adding more publications. I wrote for the Star, I wrote for the Sun, I think I've written for practically every
media out there in Malaysia.
yeah. Just maybe some more prolifically than others. Some are just 1 or 2 articles. Some like Malaysia Women's Weekly, after about the first year, then they say, we are so tired of processing your invoices lah. They come in bits and pieces. Why don't you just sign up for a retainer with us, and then we'll give you a monthly salary. Every month you just submit 3 articles to us. And I say, oh, that's God given. Okay, I'll take it. And then later on, I wrote for another magazine that is urban. That was initially Easy Health. They also offered me something similar. They said, we're going to sign up for a retainer with you. Why don't you just write for us? And we'll pay you this on a monthly basis, and that was how it all started. Yeah.
Okay, and after that, did you get your dream house?
Definitely. Shall I show you? I'm actually tempted to.
Yeah. Do show me. The garden, especially the garden, because one of the things I know about Li Jin is, okay, that's the other part of her. Besides being a writer, she's really an avid gardener. She loves growing stuff. Okay, show us the garden.
All right. Now, this is actually just the balcony. All right, I'm standing at this balcony. Okay, and this is where I have the vegetable garden. But this is the exact place that I stood that 20 years ago with Krista. I remember standing at the edge here, and we were looking down. God, I hope I don't drop my laptop. Okay, I don't know what you can see.
Okay, now we're seeing your thumb.
Huh? Sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you look down and you see a sprawling garden, and that's what you can achieve, with writing. I never thought, of course, that I would be able to do this, because, like, once upon a time, I actually told people, I'm just a writer. How far can you go? But yep, how far can you go? You can go very far. You can turn your writing into a business. You can turn your writing into your career path. And, with writing alone, you can go very far, I would say.
I'm glad you showed us your garden, because it actually became reality. And I'm so happy for you, because a lot of times when we dream certain things, maybe sometimes we just forget about it, right? We just dream and forget. But it doesn't come to that thing that we really want. So I think this is really good. We started off really well by Li Jin showing you her dream garden that she got after years and years of writing. So I think those of you who know her would know that she's an avid gardener, and we'll talk about the garden part and the growing stuff part later, right? So right now, let's talk about the writing. So that is a really good introduction to what you did, kind of like a sum up. So right now, I want to call up some hellos to people who have joined us. Hi, Rose. Okay, there's Rose here. Rose is a friend of mine. And then that's Serena. Hi, Serena. Hi, Muya. I think Muya's your friend. Is Muya?
I don't know. No, probably yours. Hi. Hello.
Okay, and then there's Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Good morning. And yes, so we are back to... So if you've just joined us, welcome to the 1 hour conversation I'm going to have with Li Jin. We're going to delve into the topic of writing, but how to write and be a successful writer. So that was why she was talking about her garden and all that, was because she introduced the book, The Secret, right? So now every time I get my guests introduce a book, I would also introduce a book, because I think that's the fun part, right? We get to share our reads. So I'm going to talk about Chaos Monkeys. So it's called Obscene Fortune and Random Failure in Silicon Valley by Antonio Garcia Martinez. And this is the funniest part, right? I got this book I think 2 years ago at a Big Bad Wolf sale. It was sitting on my shelf and I never really looked at it until one day I thought, hey, I'm bored. Let's read some really random book. And so I read this book. So this book is really fascinating because it's part memoir and it's also partly about how he sold his business to a bigger entity. And he tells you the story of how it feels like to be a startup entrepreneur and to have VCs coming at you and what it feels like actually to be in Facebook headquarters and Twitter headquarters and meeting all those personalities at these places. So if anyone is interested in doing a startup in software and all that, this is the book you should read, because it really gives you an insider look at what it feels like to be in Silicon Valley and to run a startup and to be pitched by various people to sell a company, as well as to start thinking about selling your company. So this is a really good book. So he's funny, he's really funny, he's irreverently funny, but really a good book. So I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. Okay. So sorry, back to the topic today. So let's get started with some very, very basic things. So Li Jin, I know you talked about you walking up to the editor of Malaysian Women's Weekly and talking to her, and then getting her real contact details so that you could actually email her and pitch her certain article ideas and all that. But how do you progress after that? I know that was one, right? Then you moved on to, how do you move on to the others, like Urban Health, the Star, the Sun? How did that happen?
And the same thing applies today for anybody who would like to make writing a profession, you see. So I before we actually delve into that, I think it's important to realize that there is writing and there's writing. See, most people only think of writing as, it's something that you sit down and you just let your creative juices flow, and then it all just flows out into words. So I like to put it in a correct context, because when you want to write just for fun, or you want to write just for yourself to to unload or whatever, it's different from when you want to turn writing into a profession. So most people think writing is easy. Yes, it's easy if you're writing a blog, or you just want to express something, or you just want to express an opinion, especially opinion pieces, right? Because to be honest, the writing industry has changed a lot since the last 21 years. From the time I started writing until now, a lot has changed in the industry. So there's what we call the citizen journalist nowadays. In those days, whatever we write would need to be fact-checked. Nowadays, everybody is a citizen journalist. So, whatever you think, whatever you see, whatever you feel about how things are going in the world, how things are going, in the government, everybody has a say, everybody puts their opinion online. So that's quite different from actual writing, So what I would call myself to be would be, some people will call it copywriting. So I think copywriting doesn't give justice to the kind of work that writers do, because we do far more than that. So it's important, when you want to start thinking of writing, think of it as an actual skill. It's just like you being a mechanic, or you being even a hairdresser, or even a nurse. You actually need proper skills for it. And when we talk about skills, it would be the writing skills, definitely. So writing skills, we'll come to that later, I'm sure. But apart from writing skills, when you want to turn writing into a profession, or let's say not just a profession, but let's say you're interested to just write as a part-time. I just want to make some extra money, by writing and all that. You have to turn it into a business, meaning that you have to be very structured about it. So writing is not just about writing. Writing also means that you have to keep accounts. It also means you have to network to find other people that who might need writing services. You also need to network with other writers, because they will be able to connect you to possible businesses that they are unable to fulfill. So it's more than just putting your thoughts into words, you see, because if you want to write for fun, then there's nothing to stop you. But we are talking about writing as a business. That means you write, you actually make enough money to sustain a family. I sustain a whole family of 6. I put all my children through university, just with my writing career, you see. So I never call it a writing career. I actually consider it as a business, and this is actually a content management, or content providing. See, so we provide content, and when we talk about providing content, that means that you do not write for yourself to read, That's the difference. As I said, as a citizen journalist, most people, they just whack whatever they want on the keyboard. We call them keyboard warriors for a reason, isn't it? So when you do that, you find that how can I turn that into a business, So that's not the way. That's not how it works, isn't it? So like Chris, you were asking. So after that, what did I do? I did a lot of networking after that. So I would Google every day, on writing opportunities. Where can I write? Who would So what you do is you just Google for the word writing opportunities. You could Google writing opportunities Malaysia, or if you have a specific publication that you like, for example, if you like a particular website or you like a particular magazine, you could find out what are the editorial contents. Usually at the contact page, there will be an editorial contact there. So email to that person and find out, how can you write to them. Typically, there will be what we call writer's guidelines. So when you read the writer's guidelines, from there you'll be able to find out, whether they pay for it or not. Because there are a lot of websites I know that they don't pay for writing. They just take your free content and then they tell you, oh, we give you free publicity. In the beginning, yes, I used to give a lot of free writing here and there, but after a while, when my writing work was getting one ringgit per word, it means for one word, you get paid 1 ringgit. So let's say if I was writing an article for about 500 words, I would get about 500 ringgit for it, So I started getting a little bit more discerning on who I was writing for. Of course, I wrote a lot of free stuff for a lot of NGOs. That was how I ended up being involved in NGO work, especially in healthcare. But that's how you find out, where you can start writing. So one of my big breaks was when I was Googling, as exactly what I said, look for the publications that you enjoy. What do you like reading? So obviously, if you like reading them, you want to write for them, isn't it? You want to see your name there. So Reader's Digest was like, oh my God, I love Reader's Digest. I want to write for them. So I was just searching, and then suddenly I came across this posting by the editor back then, Jim. So he actually stated that, we're looking for writers, freelance writers, so just drop us a note. So I wrote a long introductory email to him and said, I'm Li Jin, I'm based in Malaysia. I used to love Irma Bombek when I was young, her stories about standing in front of the mirror, growing old, her stories about in the train and all that. So I wrote him this long, lovely article. So I guess he was very intrigued and he said, oh, I never knew people in Malaysia could write so well. He was based in Australia back then. So he said, okay, I have this topic. Would you like to write? So he just gave me 1 or 2 topics, Then I started writing for him. And it was exactly like what happened in Women's Weekly. After about, I think about a year or 6 months or a year or something, then he said, hey, since you predominantly write, since you are the one who's our predominant writer in Malaysia, why don't you become our correspondent? So he said, hey, can I put your name on the masthead? I told him, oh my God, it's my dream come true. It's my dream come true. You're going to put my name on the masthead. Meaning, because, to have your name on the masthead of any magazine, they call it the glory box, it's an endorsement of your contributions. And for Reader's Digest, I don't write that many articles for them, maybe about 5 or 6 in a year. So only 5 or 6 times I get to see my name there. I keep those copies where I have my name there, you see, for my byline there. But when you have my name on the masthead, that means my name is there every single month, you see. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. So this is how it goes, basically, and the secret is just that, just don't give up. Just keep on pitching. The word is pitching. You just keep on pitching to the people that you want to write for. And at some point, if you write enough for them, they will offer you a contract. And now we come to the money part, isn't it? I mean, that's the question everybody wants to ask. Yeah. How do you make money from writing? Are you sure you can make money from writing?
Yes, and that I think is probably the main attractor of many people who have tuned in or will tune in later for the replay, is to find out, okay, can you really make money from writing? I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Can you really make money from writing, Jin? Or, can you really make good money? Okay, money is one thing, but can you make good money, right? Okay, tell us, show us.
I was making more money than a manager, in any firm. I was every month, typically. Of course, not in the first few years, But again, as I said, you have to turn it into a business, and you have to strategize it really well. And you had to work really hard, I wouldn't lie on that part, So typically, if people were to, a typical worker would probably just work for about 6 to 8 hours a day. I was writing up to about maybe about 12 hours a day. I start very early in the morning. I actually work like a normal office hours. I start writing at about 9 in the morning, and I continue up to about 11 or 12 at night. I'll just stop in between, you have your meals and you do whatever. But all the time I was in front of the computer. So the hard work part, I wouldn't deny. But the second trick to it, to how do you actually make it work is that, you have to have a contract. So if you're going to write just bits and pieces here and there, then I would say yes, just keep it as a hobby, because you don't intend to make much money out of it anyway. And your writing is just an outlet for you to express yourself, for you to share your thoughts, for you to share your knowledge with others. But if you want to turn it into a full-time career or a full-time business like what I did, then you have to be very structured with what you do. You really have to put in the hours into it. And if you're asking me how much have I made, as I said, I put all my 4 children to school, and 3 of them, I put them through university, and I have my 3 properties. I have a couple of cars. I wouldn't say there was a lot, but yes, typically I get about in the best of times lah, during the peak of my writing career, which is about 10 years or so lah, I was getting about 5 figure a month. So I don't know whether that's good or not. You can tell me lah, because everything was done online, in front of the computer, in bed half the time, wearing my pajamas half the time. But I put in the hours. That I cannot deny. Yeah, you have to put in the hours.
I think that that's why before we got onto this Facebook Live, right, we were talking about how we were all thinking that this is a really relevant topic, because these days people are looking for ways to earn an income. And if you can turn what you normally write, like regular writing, into something that people want to read, right, and turn it into a business, and be very, very structured and strategic about it, it can be a lucrative career or lucrative business, however you look at it, right? So
Yes,
it's not just like, oh, writing just for fun, writing part-time, writing just to get some pocket money. So I like your message, and that's why I really wanted to bring you on, because I wanted to at least have an example to show people that you can do it, but there is this element of hard work, right? So it's not just like
yes,
just simply
yes,
write 2 hours and
yes,
spend the next 6 hours doing whatever I want to do.
exactly. Yeah. Well, if you want to do that, then as I've said earlier, for a lot of people, they just want to make some extra money out of it. They say that, oh, I just want to have a side income. I just want to write a little bit lah, maybe make a couple of hundred a month. Yeah, maybe. Then in the case you can write bits and pieces for people. You submit an article here and hope that someone that gets picked up, and you will get paid for it. But for me, I didn't have that choice. Okay, I didn't have the option because my children were young, and we really needed the income, and seriously at that time, I was actually at the end of my tether, because I was previously a tour guide, I say for 10 years, but because of the children, they were really young, I can't be traveling all over Malaysia anymore. So I told myself, I really have to do something about this. And when you are driven to the edge, you really will do something. So, if you really want to write as a full-time career or a profession, you have to know why you want to do this. So I know a lot of people who successfully did it because they have the right reasons. For example, they want to stay home to take care of the children, or they have got elderly parents and they can't leave the house, or just whatever reason, or they're just not very healthy. And they're not able to drive around and work like normal people, or they just don't like office politics. I'm like, oh, I can't stand working for people. I want to be my own boss. So you must know the reason why you want this to succeed. If you stick to the reason why you want it to succeed, and if you want it, you want it hard enough, somehow you make it work. Yeah, I pitch everywhere and anywhere that I could write for. As I said, it doesn't always work the first time. You just send, okay, this is how it works, just as a step by step, for people, for the rest of you out there who are wondering, okay, so how exactly do I start, So, find a publication, find out the editor's email address or the editorial board, just submit some story ideas to them. Of course, your chances of getting picked up is higher if you are familiar with them. So if you are familiar with the publication and you know what are the columns they have, for example, they have a health column, they have a woman's column, they have a family column, they have a column for senior citizens, whatever. So you can write to them to say that, hey, I really like your publication, especially this column on senior living, oh, I have a lot of experience in senior living, or, I have this interesting paper that I did as part of my thesis, and I would like to submit an article to you. Are you interested? So you may write to them a couple of times, and they probably will either go quiet, or they might reply to you to say, oh, I'm sorry, but we've just done a similar article just last month, so we don't want to run another article on this topic anymore. But just don't give up so quickly. Continue writing to them, say, oh, I'm so glad to hear from you. Okay, doesn't matter. So I'm happy to hear that you have covered that topic. It is a really good topic because it's useful for your readers. So how about these other 3 topics? Just keep on pitching and pitching, because what they want to do or what you want to prove to them is that your writing skills are solid enough. Meaning that, you have very structured thinking. That means your articles are well researched and they are well written. Obviously you need to have good grammar. You have to have a very good and concise writing. The kind of writing that we do nowadays and the writing that we do in the past, I think is very different, because as I said, when I first started writing 21 years ago in the year 2000, it was much easier. And back then also there were far more publications. Now, as we all know, the media has suffered very badly. Even a lot of publications have closed down. For me, that was very sad. And it was sad because I watch a lot of my journalist friends who have lost their jobs, etc. But I thought to myself, this shouldn't have happened. As a journalist myself, when I was doing journalism work for Women's Weekly as well as for Reader's Digest, we saw that coming. It isn't as though it just dropped from the sky and we're like, oh my God, media is dead now. Nobody wants to read newspapers. Nobody wants to read magazines. No, we saw that coming. We saw that advertisers were getting more discerning. We saw the decline in the advertising dollars. So, and we know, if you're a journalist, if you work in a publication, you would know that, any publication does not survive on the sale of the magazine or the newspaper. It really depends on the advertising dollars that you get. And if you have got reducing advertisements, for sure that, it's just headed for the end at some point. At some point it's just gonna hit the wall. So we all saw that coming, and I actually saw that maybe about 11 years ago, in the year 2010. In the year 2010, when my writing engagements were starting to reduce, you see, and I realized that, hey, something is happening. How come there's not as much work as before? And the publications that I pitch for, they are starting to decline my work. They say, oh, we have budget cuts, etc. So what we do now is we don't hire writers anymore. We just rehash old articles, or we just take them from the web and we just credit these people, And I realized that something was happening to the industry. And that was when I told myself, you have to change. You have to innovate together with the times. And I knew that, you can't be writing for publications anymore. From the year 2010, I could see that happening. So I told myself, I have to change my market. And that was when I started exploring writing for corporates. So the thing is that by then I have had a good following already, and that's how news gets out. That's why I said, part of writing as a profession, or turning content management into a profession, is that you need to network. You need to have other writers as friends, people who are already in the industry, people who are writing for corporates, So they will say that, hey, are you free these 3 months? Because we have a contract, there's annual report coming up. Would you like to write for us? Or, the hospitals contacted me and said that, hey, you're very experienced in writing for health. We need to have a website up. Would you like to write for us? We need to do a couple of brochures and things like that. So I started writing for a lot of corporates in the year 2010 onwards. And then from there it grew, because, things just, there is this thing, known as a word of mouth. So it gets out, and then whenever people are looking for a writer, somehow it ends up with me, you see, either from other writers or from other hospitals or from other magazines. And
you pitch yourself well over the years, the last 10 years.
Yes. Basically, I just pitched myself for the first few years only, and then after that, it just sort of you sort of gain enough of attraction that you don't have to advertise anymore.
It's like a snowball effect, right?
Correct. A bit of like a snowball.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
But I'm glad you actually saw that the print publications were not going to do anything about it, and you switch from that to writing for corporates, where basically the money is, right?
Right. I mean, I don't want to sound mercenary, Sometimes people say that, so berkira, everything also want to count, right? And she, Li Jin is always so particular about money, that. I have a family to feed. I'm not writing for fun. Okay, so again, as I said, it's different. Some people, they're like, oh, it's okay lah. The husband earns, the husband is the one earning, and if you earn extra, well and fine, you can buy some nice things for yourself. You can maybe renovate the house, whatever. For me, I didn't have that choice lah. Okay, so for me, I really have to put the children through school, and I have to think about things like retirement, or not just retirement, basic, livelihood things, like if my car breaks down, the washing machine breaks down. Oh my God, it used to stress me like hell. It's like, oh my God, the washing machine is down, oh no, I have to work harder. Quick, pitch for more stories, see who else wants to hire a writer. So I think I spent 50% of my time writing, 50% of my time pitching. So half the time I was just pitching, just finding out more.
So I want to also clarify, like, pitching means also marketing yourself and putting yourself out there so that people know that there's a writer called Chan Li Jin. If you need any kinds of writing, help writing, or corporate writing done, she will be the go-to woman, right? So that's never pitching lah, because we don't even say, what, just this pitching thing. So pitching means that she actually marketed herself well and made sure that people knew her in the market as a writer and knew how to get to her when they really needed her services lah. Li Jin, there's a question here. So I'm going to pull it up because this person has put it in for some time. So Muya says, Jin, to write well, then I believe you also need to master the subject matter, right? We need to read on the topic too, especially if it involves facts. So how do you do it between reading and writing? Congrats to you, and very inspiring. Yay. Yes, very inspiring, right?
I don't know whether it's inspiring. I really hope you'll be inspiring, because, most people doubt that it will work. But I guess I'm just living proof that it does work, But there's no shortcuts to it. You just have to put in the hours Okay, at one point, in fact, I was writing so much that I thought I was going blind. Because back then, of course, tak pakai cermin mata lah. I was writing. I was spending 18 hours on the computer, and after a while, my eyes were getting so blurry, and then I can't see enough to sew. I can't see very well, and I was getting all these headaches, and I thought, my God, I'm going blind. I can't write anymore, So of course, I went berserk and tried to do other things, tried to go into other industries. But no, once you're a writer, it's in your blood. Okay, so you come back to writing still. So okay. Muya, you were asking about having to master the subject well. Yes and no. There are two ways to look at it. Either you jump into it without knowing anything, and then you learn. Okay? Or you already know the topic well, so that when the assignment is given to you, you can write very well on it. So there are just these two methods, okay? Give you an example, okay? Remember I told you that, I specialize in health writing actually. So for the first 10 years, I was writing a lot, mostly for health magazines, and even for the publications that I wrote for, like for example, in Women's Weekly, I would do their health column. So I was writing mostly on health, and then of course later on, as I said, okay, I need to go into more health-related writing, and by then the hospitals have noted me. Hospitals know that, oh yeah, this is a girl who writes all the health articles lah. Oh, this is the editor of that health magazine, Urban Health. What? Yeah, so she knows health. So yes, that's the first part I was talking about. So they knew that I was pretty well versed in health writing, because health writing is very specific. The facts are very important, because they always say about this thing about health writing. If you get just 1 0 wrong, it could actually mean the difference between life or death. If you just put there 0.05 or 0.005 dosage of a particular drug, it will make a difference between life and death for people. Okay, so for health writing, you need to be very particular about the facts. So yes, I was writing health, and for that, I was really gaining traction as a health writer. But as I started going, publications were not doing so well. So as I started going into corporate writing, somebody approached me and said, hey, would you like to write for trade shows? I said, trade show? Okay, I haven't tried it before, but yes. I always say yes or no. You grab it first, and then you learn before.
Yes,
exactly.
You learn on the way. When you fly off from the cliff, you don't know anything, right? But you kind of flap and try and figure out your way on the way down.
Right, because when I first started writing in the year 2000, internet was not what it is today. But look, now every information is available online. So it's easy for you to find the information, and all the journals and all the scientific papers are available online. So when I was approached by this person, they wanted me to write on what, green technology.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so first I was like, alamak, environment ka, number one. Alamak, technology ka. Alamak, green tech ah. But of course, as I said, never say no. Okay, just say, of course, as a writer, believe that you are versatile. Believe that you can write anything that people ask you to write. You can write anything. Okay. So she said, okay. And I remember to this day, I was just having a chat with this friend, Now we have become good friends. But back then, again, she was like you, Krista, she was my boss. And she said that, okay, so we hear that you're a writer. I've seen your writing and they seem quite well. But this topic is fairly unknown in Malaysia. This is about green tech. You can go and Google about it because just to gain some understanding on what green tech is about. And she said this killer sentence to me that stuck to me to this day. I was like, okay. She said, I want you to make green tech sexy. I was like, God, green tech, yo. Dah lah environment, dah lah technology. And she said, make it sexy. I was like, yes, of course, no problem. I'll do it. So yes, came back and then did a lot of research. Yeah. So of course the trade show happened, went very well. It went so well that of course the first year I was the editor and writer. I had 2 writers, and then the second year I had 6 writers. The third year onwards I had 10 writers with me. For iGEM. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with iGEM. So trade shows are also a very good place for you to write for. So back to the business of writing, Krista, whenever people think of writing, they always think for publications, right? But no, do you know that writing work? Why do I say that there's a lot of potential in writing and that you can really turn it into a business? Because everything needs the written word. Okay, even a signboard in the toilet also needs somebody to write it. It doesn't just fall from the sky. Okay, that's why sometimes when you're in public toilets and then you see all those nice infographics in the toilets, very strategically placed so that they know that it's exactly going to catch your eyeball. How do you think it gets done? It's a writer. Okay, you see signboards, you see billboards, you see advertisements, you see everything that is written. Those product boxes, the food that you purchase, every product that you buy, anywhere that you see text, it's written by a writer. Okay, so your business is not confined to writing just for
Publication.
publications, yeah, or online.
Newspapers.
Yeah, it's not that. So open up your mind and realize how big your potential is. You can write anything. You can write for a lot of people. So just keep on pitching. You can be writing product write-ups. There are a lot of people who look for writers to write product write-ups. For example, like a usage instructions for use. Whatever. So or manual. So there's as
Or
long as
even these days, right, online, because online world is growing so rapidly, there's also people who need people to write product descriptions for their e-commerce, right? Because they
yes,
have to describe the product that they're selling, and if they can't describe, you can't be selling
yes.
anything. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm
So,
glad you actually mentioned that writing is not just confined to like stuff like
right.
books or
Yes.
magazines or print, but anything that you can see and read,
In
someone
text.
has to have written it somehow.
Exactly.
Right?
Someone
Yeah.
has to write it. Yeah. So, for as long as you have good grammar, you will be able to find business lah, But again, as I said, sadly, 10 years ago when we saw the writing on the wall, literally lah, when I saw that, okay, you cannot depend on publications anymore. And I told myself, you have to move out of it. Sadly, I realized that a lot of my journalist friends, they have not moved, They have not moved. They still stick to writing for publications and even if it's not print publication, but online publications. So, you feel that, ever since the media world has crashed, you can't make writing your business anymore, which is wrong, because for as long as you can write, for as long as you're willing to explore, for as long as you're willing to change, and to stay very versatile, I believe that there is business for writers. For as long as you can write, your grammar has to be good, of course, for a start. That's a given. If your grammar is bad, then I would say you really have to improve or you really have to find something else to do. It is a real skill. Okay, I wouldn't want to send my car to a mechanic who is not good in repairing my car. Same thing as writing as well. Your grammar is just like the skills of a mechanic. Okay, so don't blame yourself. If you have bad grammar, then maybe you ought to find something else or you really improve because, it's very tiring for editors to keep on getting writing that needs to be rewritten, or to that needs to be, edited.
Restructure.
So yeah,
Restructure.
restructured, rewritten, it's so tiring, and that's how you stop getting business. After 3 or 4 articles, they say, okay, never mind, we have enough, they don't want to engage you anymore. You will know that your writing is good when the business keeps coming, it's just like cake. If you eat a nice cake, right, you keep on reordering, isn't it? But if you eat one that's like, okay, so only lah, you wouldn't want to order from the same baker. So the same thing like writing as well, So if you are not good at it, you have to keep practicing until you're good enough. So if I say that, well, it's also as a disclaimer, I don't want to stop you from trying, because some people they just try writing for a bit, then it doesn't work, and then they just give up. You see, well, just keep on trying. As I said, if you have a strong enough reason to do this, somehow you get there lah. It's just whether the reason why you do this is strong enough. If the reason why you want to earn some extra money is just for you to buy a nice fancy car, or to to buy yourself a diamond ring or something nice like that, maybe your reason may not be strong enough, and you're like, yeah, okay lah, if I get it lah, if I don't get it, then tapper lah, But if your reason is so strong, it's like, I have to do this, I've got 3 kids to put to university, and I can bet you my bottom dollar it will work lah, You're so driven by the reason to make it work.
I like how you keep coming back to the major part of this is, why are you doing it, right? If you don't have a strong enough why, just for pocket money, or just try here a little bit because some other things are not working, and you're trying just writing just for the fun of it, maybe it's not going to work, right?
It's not gonna it's not gonna work the way you want it lah. Yeah. It's not gonna work the way you want it to lah. Yeah, As I said, for me, it's a real profession. It's actually a career path lah. It's not something like what you're saying, Chris. Yeah, just for the fun of it, just as a hobby, no problem. Keep a blog just to keep yourself happy, or some people they write. People write for many reasons. They write, to heal. They write to express themselves. They write because they're just so angry with the government or whatever, But for me, that was my business, writing as a business. So it's not play one, it's real work.
Okay, so now I want to go into how did you? Okay, you told us that you saw that print was not going to do so well already because you got reduced jobs, right? And then you started writing for trade shows, and then you also niche down into health writing, and then you co-authored a book. Is it a book or publication, or I don't know?
It's an actual book. Yeah.
So yeah, how did that happen? Is it because of your name being seen in the health writing scene so often that people started to pitch you to write a book?
Yeah, well, it actually worked like this, you see, because after I was writing on health issues for so long, what happened was there was one particular topic that was very close to my heart. Some of you might be familiar about my work with the pneumococcal vaccine, because as a health journalist for so many years, I kept writing about a lot of other diseases, and I was very annoyed when the topic of pneumococcal disease keep coming up again and again. So I was asking this question, why is it that we can't find a solution to pneumococcal, whereas there's a vaccine for it, you see? And I realized that it's because it's not compulsory vaccine. It is not being made compulsory by the government for various reasons, like cost, budget, etc. So I started to advocate for it and say that, hey, this is not right. You know that there's a way in which you can prevent it, and we did not do it. So I went into advocacy to push the government, to have it included into the national immunization program, making it compulsory for everybody to take it. So when you make it compulsory, that means for as long as it's included in the national immunization program, it makes it free for people who go to the government clinics to vaccinate their children. See, so as I said, after a while, once you have secured a particular niche in your writing, so for me, it was health writing, so I realized that I had a certain responsibility because of the knowledge that you have, in health and all that, and you find that, hey, this is such an important topic, and it is just a social responsibility if you have the knowledge and you're not sharing it, number one. And number two is that you have the knowledge, but you're not doing anything about it. See, so I went into advocacy at some point in my life, I see. So at that point, I decided that, I have to do more than just writing. I have to create a lot of noise, you see. And that was how this entire thing happened. So the book was subsequent to that, much later on. So I was doing a lot of advocacy writing on, and giving a lot of talks on why we have to do this, and creating a lot of awareness on pneumococcal disease. And then from there, the doctors that I was working with, we decided that, okay, pneumococcal vaccine is just one thing, but we realized that there's a lot of there's a lack of awareness on vaccination, and there's a lot of myths and a lot of fears, unfounded fears on vaccination. Of course, as a health writer, I know that these fears are unfounded because we have seen the benefits of vaccination and how it has helped a lot of children. You see, I mean, it is considered to be the best public health what do you call it now? Best public health weapon, in bringing down the number of infectious diseases in the world. So, as a health writer, and having come so far, you have to do something. I decided I have to do something above just writing alone. So, that was how I began my advocacy work. And then from there also, I started going into other NGOs. Even today, I'm still involved in several medical NGOs. So this is when my writing is free. So I write for them very freely, everywhere, in most places, So if they need any form of writing, I will just help them to write, and come up with their newsletters, come up with their websites, etc. So for the last few years, it's time for me to give back. So that was what happened.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of writing now, what are you mostly writing for or writing about? Is it still health? Is it still, or is something else?
Well, I actually have not been doing a lot of writing anymore because, as I said, first and foremost, I saw the change in how publications worked. And then I started writing for corporates in the year 2000 onwards, and then after that, even then, business was dipping because the economy was not very good, right? I'm sure we all know that in the last 10 years, the economy hasn't been that good. And it wasn't the writing that bugged me. I mean, as writers, we all knew that we can write, isn't it? And if you give me something to write, definitely I can write. But the problem is, for me, I came to a point where it wasn't the writing that I was tired of, it's the other aspects of the business. So actually, I got tired of chasing for the money. You have to keep chasing your clients, you have to keep sending invoices. And at that point also, because my business was quite big, I had to manage a lot of clients and keep on sending invoices. And I'm very bad at it. I think writers have this problem. We are not very administrative people. We are so creative and we want to create. So you hate to sit down and I had to do my invoicing. I had to send out my invoices, and I had to chase people for money. So that part is just not my forte. And because I had so many clients, I was missing out on a lot of invoices. I was missing out on a lot of payments. So, when that happens, of course, your revenue is affected. So at that point, I was already in my mid-40s. So I said, I think I'm tired of chasing for money. I'm tired of chasing the invoicing, etc. So I decided to go full-time, to work with a hospital. From there onwards, of course, I started working full-time for corporations and no longer freelancing, so I stopped having my own business and I went into marketing, communications, etc. So now I work full-time for a health technology company, which is an irony because when I first started in the year 2000, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to use email, But I said, okay, there's nothing I can't learn. So here we are, So as I said, it's not the writing. It was just the administrative part that I got tired of. And of course, the insecurity. Because in the first 10, 11 years, the money was actually very stable. I could see that it was very good, you get 5-figure every month and all that. But after a while, it was getting worse and worse. And it was so difficult to chase for money. And payments were late in coming because the economy really hasn't been very good the last 10 years or so. So again, for me, I have a family to feed. No two ways around it. But I can still write. I have the skill. I will never starve. So I applied to work full-time for people. And of course, I was quite grateful, for the hospitals that took me in. They say, oh, yeah. You've been writing part-time with us for so long anyway. Might as well just absorb you full-time. So, okay. So I became full-time. So I started writing I became full-time in a couple of, for 2 hospitals. And then, of course, later on, I went to join a NGO because, I love NGO work. I was in the marketing communications department. Even today, I'm in a communications department in a health technology company. Still writing, but I know I don't write the kind of stuff I used to anymore. I write a lot of proposals, a lot of emails, a lot of correspondence, etc. Yes, but see, it's again the written word. So, it's just like if you want to count how much money, you can make out of it, once upon a time I was making 1 ringgit a word lah. So now, of course, I stopped counting because, I get paid on a monthly basis. But I just, as a parting message, I just want everybody to know that if you can write well, and I say well because, as I said, I would not want to send my car to a mechanic who is not good at the job because I don't want my car to break down halfway. Same thing like writing as well. This is a real skill, it's a proper skill. Stop thinking of writing as just something that you want to do on the side, you want to do for fun, you want to do to express your creativity. Start thinking of it as a real skill that you need to hone, a real skill that you can improve on because it has huge potential. It can bring you very far.
Okay. We haven't ended yet because we have 2 questions.
Go on.
Let me pull up this question. So Asri, hi Asri, nice of you to join us and ask your question. So he says, hello Li Jin. Nowadays, everyone can label themselves as a writer, especially with the vast resources available online. How can an amateur writer stand out from the rest of the pack? Oh, good one. Good one,
Yes,
Asri.
Hi Asri, how are you? Correct. Everybody wants to call themselves a writer, correct? Because everybody is doing what? They call it CP, copy and paste. Everyone is just doing copy and paste. Yes. So how do you differentiate yourself as an amateur writer? I can tell you it shows. It's just like a baker. So think of yourself as a baker, okay? As a baker, when you eat a cake, you immediately know, yang ni sedap lah, yang ni kurang sedap. Same thing as a writer, okay? When you produce a piece of work, and when I produce a piece of work, when you eat it, when you read it, you're like, wow, this is different. Okay, the way it's written is different. In the first place, the topic may be the same, but the way in which you look at it, that means your perspective on the same topic may be different. Okay, for example, let's just talk about cake. All right, so some people will be like, oh, cake. Okay, today I'm going to throw you a topic. Think about cake. Let's write about cake today. So the first thing people write about, okay, this cake is delicious. This cake has got enough of egg, has got enough of a flour, enough of flour, enough of egg, enough of sugar. So it's nice. And or they will say that, okay, this cake, has got enough of ingredients, etc. Is baked correctly, blah, 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 blah. That is probably what I can tell you. 1,000,000 people will write about the cake. But for somebody who is a little bit more seasoned, you can tell immediately, because if you throw to them a topic about cake, they will be able to say that, okay, let's write about cake for diabetics or cake for kidney patients. So they'll be able to look at the same topic, but from a different perspective. Okay, they'll say, okay, perhaps you're a diabetic patient, but you have a sweet tooth and you love cake. So how do you go about this? Okay, so perhaps you need to choose a cake from the particular whatever, or maybe you ought to choose a cake with not just less sugar, but less salt, whatever, and that's just one. And or even somebody who is even more seasoned, forget about the cake. They'll probably say like, the best, they'll probably write it in a way like, the best cake you've ever eaten was the one in which my grandmother used to make. And I remember how she used to make it. She would choose the egg from the chicken in the farm, blah, 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 blah. And by the time you finish reading it, you realize, oh my God, that's a fantastic article about cake. It doesn't even talk about the cake. It was talking about the grandma. It was talking about her memories. It was talking about, all the other things. And when you read it, you realize that, wow, it's such a nice read, Then you realize, hey, it doesn't say anything about the cake, But the topic is still the cake. Okay, you can tell because it's just like what they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The same like writing as well. When you read a good piece of writing, you can really tell the quality. That's how you can tell. Okay, so, well, everybody can label themselves. I always tell people, you can call yourself whatever you want, but what makes the difference is what people call you. I mean, you can label yourself a writer, you can label yourself a specialist, you can label yourself an expert, you can label yourself a master. Doesn't make a difference lah. Of course lah, Asri, you mesti tahu kan orang kata apa, masuk bakul angkut sendiri, kan? But what makes the difference is when somebody else say that, wow, she's a fantastic writer. Wow.
She's excellent, right?
Wow, I love the way she writes. Oh, I love the way, I love to read the things you write. That's what makes a difference. It's not what you call yourself, it's what other people call you.
Other people call you. It's not how you perceive yourself, it's how other people perceive you. So that's really
branding
one of that's marketing.
That's branding. No, marketing is when you sell yourself. Marketing is when you sell yourself. I'm the best writer, I'm the specialist writer, I'm the master writer. That is marketing. But when somebody says, oh, she's a great writer, she's a great whatever, that is branding. That means you have already made your name.
Okay.
You don't
That's
have to
another
call
question.
yourself.
That's another question, Li Jin. Before we're actually at the top hour, but we still have to answer this question. So
No
Cheryl
problem.
asks, love your sharing so far, Jin. How would you describe your writing style?
My
Good
writing
one.
style. Yeah,
Good
my
one.
writing style. Okay. That's a very good question. Yes, I agree. Because I remember some time ago when I was working in a PR firm for a very short while, and at the time I had a boss and then she used to say, "Oh, this kind of writing is so fluffy, So fluffy meaning that it doesn't have substance, Okay, so it depends on different. You're right about writing styles, you see. And again, when you talk about writing style as well, just to talk a little bit technical, yeah. Every publication, you remember just now I was saying that when you want to write for a particular publication or whatever, there is this thing known as a house style. Okay, the house style is whatever is the accepted mood and tone of that particular publication or whatever it is that you want to write for. So, for example, if I were to write for Women's Weekly, I would adapt to the house style of Women's Weekly. If I would write for the Star, I would have to adapt to the house style of the Star. So I would adapt myself to whichever is the is the client. Okay, so whatever house style that they will require. So if you want to ask me to describe my writing style, I think I'm very versatile. I can write most things except that if you have got good writing skills, just like a mechanic, I mean, as a good mechanic, you can repair any car, isn't it? Except that you specialize in some cars. So, for example, you may be a mechanic, but you say that I can repair most cars, but I don't like to repair Honda because Honda, they are very specific in whatever. So I would say that my writing style is more human interest. Okay, I like to write human interest stories because I think in this day and age, technical writing, you can just find them a lot on the internet, and there's a lot of CP involved. You can just copy and paste. Factual writing, technical writing, everybody can copy and paste, just like my cake story just now. Okay, but I would like to look at things from a different perspective. So it's a lot of human interest. So I think that would best describe my writing style. But if you ask me to write anything, I would be able to. What is the difference is whether I enjoy it or not. At one point, I actually swear to myself I was never going to write annual reports, because it's actual work. You think that writing is so you sit in front of the computer, no sweat, and you just no. My first and a few annual reports are, I write until I feel like I wanted to vomit. You really feel sick in the stomach, and like, no, I hate this so much, but I have to do this. My deadline is 3 days. So it's real work. You may not sweat on the outside, but you're literally bleeding inside. You're like, oh my God, I hate this so much. So you squeeze out sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph until you finish your article and you send it off. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. I'm just going to sleep the whole day. It's real work, You may think that, oh, it's all in your mind, like just imagining. No. Writing is real work. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I hope that
Writing is stressful work because a lot of the work is not manual labor, but a lot of the work is using a lot of our brains to think and process and analyze and figure out how to write it the way it's supposed to be written, right? Okay, thank you, Cheryl, for asking her this good question. And finally, hopefully this will be the last question.
No problem.
We're on a roll today. So could you share with us your principles of life? Wow. This
Oh my God. My principles
in life.
Yeah, I got so many principles in life. I don't even know where to start. But I believe in Kaizen. Okay, one of my clients was actually Toyota. So you see, you learn when you write for others, you see. So, just now, Moya, you were asking, do you write about your subject matter that you're expert in? I would say no, but, I told myself I can learn. There's nothing I cannot learn, okay? So UMW Toyota was one of my client, and when I first wrote for them, and I was introduced to the concept of Kaizen, and I just fell in love with it. Kaizen is a Japanese word that means continuous improvement. All right. So
Which
I
I love,
believe
by
in,
the way. Which I will,
yeah,
which I also
yeah,
uphold. One of us shares
correct.
similar values.
Correct. Yes, yes. So Kaizen is one of my principles in life, continuous improvement, and anything that I do, I want to live it. I want to be able to leave it a little bit better for the person after me. Even something as simple as, I don't know, just maybe using a public toilet, whatever. My children are like, "Hey, why are you washing the toilet for people?" I say, "No lah, just rinse a bit like." So yeah, basically, I believe in Kaizen, continuously improving yourself, regardless of your age, regardless of your status in life, continuously improving. And of course, I first started off my very, very, very principle of, very, very, greatest principle of life is a carpe diem. I'm sure Krista knows that as well. I believe that we don't have that much time on earth. Lah. So whatever moment that you have, whatever time you have, you really have to seize the day. You don't know how much time you have, and you don't know how much time you have left for you to do the kind of thing that you want to do. So carpe diem was initially, all my life, actually, I lived with the concept of carpe diem. I used to even have a mantra band that says carpe diem. And I wrote it in every one of my email. I will sign off with carpe diem. But now, in the last 10 years, I no longer follow carpe diem. Now it's carpe momento. You know,
And what is that?
yeah, seize the moment. I don't
Ah,
seize the day anymore because now it's like in a day, there's only so much you can do, but I seize every moment. I just have, like just now when I started, see, that's why I'm looking so disheveled now because I was like, okay, the talk is at 11, I can do some gardening first, even if it's just 2 hours, even if it's just 15 minutes, I will squeeze something into it, because I believe that we don't have time, I mean, all my life, I always believe that we have limited time on this world. So whatever time that we have in this world is borrowed time. So there's a reason why you're here, and the reason why you're still alive today. I mean, one of my mentors told me, because there are a couple of times in which I met with very severe accidents and I survived, unscrathed, So my mentor told me, you have unfinished business. There's something you're meant to do, with your life. And that stuck with me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have unfinished business, you see. So that's why I was very touched when Krista invited me on, this is the first time I'm actually talking about my writing because, most people also think of, yeah, she's just a writer. In fact, I remember about 15 years ago, one of the editors, when she introduced me to the client. She said, "Oh, she's just a writer. Anybody can write." For me, it was an insult
mm,
because not everybody can write. Number
yeah.
one, and I believe nobody can write the way I do. Everybody writes differently, but I write in my own way. So everybody writes differently.
And
So
that's why
only
I
this.
said, yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
Chris.
That's why I wanted to say no two writers are the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No two writers are the same. Yeah. So Muya, that's my two principles of life. I hope they will help you as well.
Yeah.
Carpe
I
diem
also
and
I also think that the reason why, okay, now I'm going to tell you why I invited you, because I know that first of all, it's not because we are friends that I invited you. I invited you because you have a great story to share. And I remember many years ago when you told me that story about standing on the balcony and wishing
yeah,
that show unit was your house. I was like,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, that is the real this is the manifestation of that
Yes.
vision, that dream, right?
It is.
But
It
to get
is.
there, it wasn't like always smooth sailing. So there was
Yes.
some work involved in that. So I was thinking, like, that's a great story to share. So for me, I always believe in that. There's always a story to a person. And if that story can be brought out, all the better, because see, now you've inspired so many people to, if they are interested in writing, if they want to write, you've given them some really practical strategies, tips, things to get started, like pitch yourself, right? Go out there and talk to someone, tell them what you can do for them, right? Tell them what you can write for
Yep.
them, and then
Yep.
get
And
started.
also now there are a lot of Facebook groups. Back in the day, I didn't have access to all this Facebook. Back then, the most chunky thing was already, what do they call that? Email groups or something. Who was
Yeah,
that?
yeah, like email groups, right? Like they email the
Yeah.
day summary to you, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah, no, no. Email groups, and then you have like a whole bunch of people on that email. So you share information, it blasts to all these
Oh
email.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, now there are all these Facebook groups, and something, guys. If you want to write, there are a lot of email groups,
writers.
Facebook groups. Yes, writers Facebook groups, and they always paste. Hey, sorry, they're always sharing opportunities for writers there. So there are a couple, which of course I don't research them anymore, but I know 3 or 4 Facebook groups that are available for people who are looking for writing jobs. So you can do that. Just go to Facebook and put there, writing opportunities, Facebook, you'll be able to find a lot of Facebook groups where they have got writers, opportunities for writers that you can write, So they'll be looking for things like that. Oh, I have a short-term gig. There's a 3 months. I need a writer for 3 months, to do this project. I need a writer to do an annual report. I need a writer to do a website. I need a writer to do a brochure. So you will find all these opportunities there. Of course, I'm not saying it's easy for you because you probably have competition of another 100 other people. That's where Asri's question comes into place. How do you show that you are better than all the 100 writers out there? How do you show that your writing skill is so tight and so concise that immediately once they read your pitch, you're like, oh, okay, this one is good. Let's just take this one, something like that. So you have to show that you're far better than your competition. And don't make, I think that's the parting message, don't make price the contributing factor. I once had very funny because, as an editor as well for many years, I once had a writer who sent his pitch over to me to say that, oh, I can do your writing for you. I'm the cheapest in town. I can do your writing for you for very cheap, for 10 cents a word, I was shocked. And I thought this is such a terrible way to market yourself, to tell people that I'm the cheapest writer in town. Please hire me. No, please don't make price don't make price your niche. You don't want people to hire you just because you're cheap. You want people to hire you because you're good.
Yes, okay? Yes. That's a great parting message because I always tell that to anyone. It doesn't matter whether they're writers or not. Whatever you provide, make sure it's good. People pay for quality. People are not going to pay for, cheap. You think cheap is actually a factor, but actually it's not.
Point, yeah. It is not.
It's not. It is not. Cheap has many connotations. Okay, cheap. Right? I always say cheap is not a good way to start off. Please don't say you're the cheapest writer or the cheapest whatever that you want to be. No.
But there are people who do that, I'm the cheapest writer.
Other than cheap, right? Like, give me something other than cheap. Give me quality.
Quality or whatever, like you have to differentiate,
or some sort of flair for something that you can do, at least that makes sense rather than cheap. So yeah, that's a good message, Li Jin. So one of the things that Li Jin and I were talking about is because we know so many writer friends, so we were thinking of putting together a masterclass.
yeah, that's not a bad idea, not even a masterclass, because I think this is the difference between Asian writers and Caucasian writers, the Western writers. They have all these groups where they actually have writing pitches. They call them prompts, writing prompts. So when you have a writing group, because writing is a skill, as I keep saying over and over. So you need to practice. Yeah. So we don't have practice if we don't. We're not going to get any better if we don't practice. So I know in the Western countries, when they have got writers groups, you form a group among yourself, and then from there they will mentor you. And one of the greatest mentoring skills they have is mentoring weapons, is or rather whatever you want to call it, So they give you writing prompts every day. So every day they will throw a topic at you, and you're supposed to write something about it, just a short one, very short ones and all that. Just so that you keep your creative juices running, so that you keep on having continuous ideas, So for example, today's topic is cake. Just write about cake today, whatever you want to write, whatever topic on cake, Then from there, you improve because you see other people writing about grandmother, grandfather, and you're like, hey, how come I just wrote about the flour and the sugar? Not very fun, right? I think my cake story not very interesting compared to other people's cake story. So you read other writers' story, and then you say, that's actually a good angle. That's actually a better story than mine. And you improve on it. So you have to learn from other people. In order to write well, you have to read a lot. That one is a given. Yeah, you have to read a lot in order to write. Just like you had to eat a lot of cake before you realize, okay, a cake.
What is a bad cake, right?
Yeah, what is a good cake?
Which is exactly what I always tell people, right? In order to know what is good coffee, you got to drink a lot of bad coffee. And then when you get the good coffee, you're like, okay, that's a good coffee. All right. So you eat a lot of bad cakes in order to come to the right cake and say, hey, this is a good cake. So read a lot of books, all kinds of genres. Read online, offline, wherever, but make sure you read so that reading itself inspires you to write better. So thank you. You have been such an amazing guest. I'm so happy. I'm so happy we had this conversation. Even though I know her for years, decades, literally decades.
Decades.
I never really dug into her story, and I love this Facebook live sessions that I do, because I get to talk to people and get to dig out their stories and get to ask them, more insightful stuff like this. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. If you liked what you see, please consider liking our page, of course, and follow Li Jin. Okay, where can you find Li Jin? On Facebook, right? Just type Chan Li Jin, right? And find her, make her your friend, and you can ask her for questions after that if you haven't answered your questions. But other than that, yeah, we're really thinking of doing something together with the rest of our writer friends. So here is a shout out to all our writer friends, right? So which writer friends do you want to shout out? Give a shout out to?
Oh gosh, I don't know who's online right now, but when I started writing for the trade show, so what I had to do was to rope in all my writer friends because I needed 10 writers, So of course, I'm very discerning as an editor. So I had to choose the best in the industry. So I have people like, I had Majella, I had Rina, I had Li Xian, I had Sherlyn. Who else did I have? At one point, I have got what's her name? Oh my God, I don't even remember who they are. But these are the best. Seriously, they are so good. Why would I say they are so good? Because even for somebody like me, if they can write something where I don't need to change much, very minimum editing, I would say that, if I see something which I don't have to edit, I know that they're really top of their class. They're really good. Yeah. So we have actually very good writers in Malaysia. I'm actually very privileged to be the one who is representing them, saying what I've said today, because all of them will say exactly the same thing as I did. They all made writing a career because they all believed in it, and because they have a strong reason why. Most of them have the same reason that I did, because they have children, and they are mothers, and they don't want to leave the home. They want to take care. They want to spend quality time with the family. At the same time, they want to be able to provide and to make money. So, yep, there you go. Yeah. So, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm very privileged to be here. Very honored. Thank you so much, Krista, and to Redbox for this opportunity.
You're welcome. So right now here, so I'm going to give a shout out to some of our writer friends that we have. I think mutually. I hope I don't miss out anyone. After that, people come and mara me. So we have Marsha. Marsha is.
Yes, Marsha. Yes. Yeah.
Audrey Teo, who actually edited my book.
Yes, correct. Audrey is also one of my team members. Yeah, Audrey.
Alexandra Wong.
Correct. Alex also part of my team. See, as I said, I've grown so old now, you forgot.
Also,
Alex also part of
Daphne.
Audrey,
remember Daphne?
Alex. Yes, Daphne was on my team for 2 years. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. We have so many writer friends, in common, because we all I think we all all started around that time, right? Writing and doing stuff online, offline, and all that. So who else did I miss? So I'm sure we have a lot more, but these are the people that I get right now. And of course, Chan Li Jin.
Top of our heads, right? Top of our heads. That's why I say I'm just privileged because I'm sharing.
I really got to bring them on. Really, honestly, all these people, bring them on.
Yeah, okay. One day we can have as you said, we can have a real masterclass. Yeah, each of us can take one topic.
Each of us can take one, and we can share what we know in a more private venue, so we can teach more strategies. I think it's probably time for us to do that and pass on, so that there will be more writers coming up. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Today has been a really long Facebook Live. Usually mine doesn't keep more than 60 minutes, so now it's 1 hour and 17 minutes. Almost 1 hour 18 minutes. So we had such a good time and such a great conversation that we can go on and on. No wonder you said 1 hour too short, lah. 1 hour really is too short. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, Grace Ann. Thank you, Muya. Azri, Cheryl. Who else is here? Rose, Chrisanne. Diana, Daniel. Serene, Rose, and all of you who will be watching this after this, because most people I know do watch on a replay to just go through and see what they've missed. So thank you once more, Li Jin. Thank you for sharing it with us, all your really good stuff, and I'm really glad I got you on today. So ladies and gentlemen, have an enjoyable Saturday. It is the 3rd day of Raya, even though we're not going anywhere. We can't visit anyone. And I forgot to say this to you, Li Jin. Selamat Hari Raya.
Oh, thank you.
I saw you all your beautiful clothes with your children, and taking pictures in the house and all that. But yeah, your kids have grown up so much.
My kids have grown. It's 20 years, So, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you, ladies. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for our next Facebook Live. So have a great Saturday and stay safe.
Stay safe. Yes, stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.